Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you guys from Swagkage. This one explaining the Strength of 100 seal, or the Byakugo seal, as some of you may know it. And if you don't know what it is, it's the mark that appears on the forehead of two characters that we know, being Tsunade and Sakura. Now, to me personally, the Strength of 100 seal is, in my opinion, probably one of the most underrated techniques in the entire Naruto series. And for me personally, it seemed like the Boruto manga was probably going to go into more detail about it, explain the actual backstory, but it seems like that might not actually be the case, which is honestly kind of a shame, because it could have been really interesting. But let's go ahead and watch this video from Swagkage, where he explains what the Strength of 100 seal actually is and how it works, just like we've seen from his other explained videos.
Yo, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be jumping back into the bottomless ocean that is Naruto's lore. So today I'm going to be discussing something that I've actually been meaning to make a video about for like a year, something like that. Now, I never really got around to it, and I guess I just sort of dropped it. Anyway, you already know this. You've seen the title in the thumbnail. We're going to be talking about the Strength of 100 seal, that little diamond-shaped thing that pops up on the forehead of both Tsunade and Sakura. Everybody knows what it is. It's a pretty iconic aspect of the series. But I can imagine that at least a few of you don't remember everything about it. And
it's iconic, but like I said, I do think it's a little bit underrated, because, you know, it's understandable when you have abilities like you know, Sage Mode, 6-pass Sage Mode. You've got the Rinnegan, you've got the Mangekyo, you've got the Susanoo, you've got the Amaterasu. It's understandable why it could seem kind of lackluster in comparison, but it is still a very powerful technique.
don't worry, I can't blame you for that. Kishimoto never really explains everything about it at once. You're just sort of
Same
gradually
thing he does
fed
with a lot of
information
his
about this thing over the course of the series. Since Kishimoto has a
lot of
tendency
his
to expand upon concepts he's
techniques
previously established, like seriously, this is something he does a lot. There's a lot more to this thing than meets the eye. So the basic idea is, after identifying how much chakra they typically tend to use in given situations, a person will begin to store any excess chakra that they feel they don't need into a certain spot on their body. Now, I think it's safe to assume that this thing will always appear on its user's forehead. That's how it worked for both Tsunade and Sakura, but there's nothing in the series that explicitly states that. So I guess theoretically you might be able to store the chakra in your stomach or something, but that's not really relevant. Anyway, as you've no doubt gathered by now, this chakra is stored in a diamond-shaped seal, though this seal doesn't appear to physically manifest until a person has built up enough chakra. Sakura explains that it took her 3 years to build up the chakra necessary for this thing to show up, so needless to say,
yeah,
it's not a very easy
Shizune,
task to
it
complete.
says right here.
Shizune also goes on to say that not even she has the chakra control necessary to pull this off, which is also something worth discussing about this jutsu, by the way. According to the second data book, this thing is considered the pinnacle of chakra control, and I mean, that makes sense. I don't think I really need to explain why. You'd sort of assume that constantly, perpetually feeding chakra into this one spot on your body, even while you're sleeping, I presume that might not be something that actually happens, but I mean, I guess. I mean,
Wait, how
regardless,
would that even be
it's not
possible?
easy. Like I said, I don't think I need to explain why. So as such, it's obviously an S-rank jutsu, and it's not one that many people are capable of using. Actually, Tsunade is the one who invented it, and before she started training Sakura, she was the only person who could use it. Now the two of them are the only people who can use this seal. So to call it rare would be a massive understatement. The main purpose that this seal serves after it's been completed is, well, it's pretty obvious. It gives the person a lot more chakra to draw from, and this works really well with the training and skill with chakra control necessary to use it in the first place. See, the fact that the user's already established a really solid chakra control by the time this thing shows up, they're able to make use of all of this extra chakra that they now have access to very efficiently. I imagine to be able to achieve a feat as ridiculous as creating this seal in the first place, you've got to be really good at figuring out how to accomplish certain tasks without wasting any of your chakra. So if you give the person in question a much larger chakra reserve, obviously they're going to be able to pull off some pretty crazy shit. In the case of both of this technique's only users, they use chakra to amplify all of their physical attacks. So with this seal in place, well, I mean, Sakura went from being able to do some pretty impressive damage to the environment to being able to nuke everything in sight with the power of her fists. Like, Naruto had just gotten through fighting six-tailed beasts and Obito at the same time. He saw Sakura punch the ground once, and he shit himself. Right there on panel, you can see him utterly terrified of Sakura's strength. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, of course, physical amps aren't the only thing that you can use all of this extra chakra for. I imagine you could use it for anything you wanted. I mean, Tsunade even uses the chakra from the seal to sustain an eternal transformation jutsu that gives her a youthful appearance despite the fact that she's like 50 years old. So, I mean, really, it's just like an extra stash of chakra that you can draw from whenever you want. There are no
So I just want to talk about this for a second because this statement has always kind of interested me. So when they say that pooling both of their chakra together, you know, using the Byakugo seal, which gives them access to even more chakra, they can only summon 1/10 of Katsuyu's body from the Shikotsu forest, which to me just makes me wonder, okay, well, wait a minute. First of all, how big is Katsuyu's body, like the real thing? How big is it? And second of all, how big is the Shikotsu forest? Because we see Katsuyu, like she's as big as Gamakichi and Aoda, and they're fucking ginormous. They're the same size as the tailed beasts. So that does add, like that does make me kind of ask the question, okay, how big is Katsuyu really? If what Sakura on her own summoned was as big as Aoda and Gamakichi, who themselves are as big as tailed beasts, then how big is the main body? Because it took Sakura and Tsunade to summon 1/10 of her body. So that's just, again, it's kind of insane. And it does make me wonder, like, is Kishimoto ever going to, you know, now that he's taken over the writing for the Boruto manga, will he ever at some point maybe go into this? Because that's something that, like, that's always been an interesting part of this world that I kind of wish he would explore more. You know, the sage creatures. You know, you've got the toads, you've got the snakes in Ryuchi Caves, and now you have the slug from Shikotsu Forest. And I've always wondered if maybe, I really hope that at some point, I don't know if, again, maybe I'm just being hopeful for something that might never happen, that at some point in the series, maybe we go there and we get to learn more about these places and, you know, their history. Because, you know, one of my favorite parts of any series is world building, and that's a part of this world that I do kind of wish would have been explored more. We got to see a little bit of the Maomyoboku in the original Naruto series. We got to explore more of Ryuchi Caves in the Boruto era, and I don't know if we'll ever get to Shikotsu Forest and learn more about Katsuyu or maybe other creatures that are like her. So yeah, sorry, we went on that long tangent. Just wanted to talk about this for a second.
No real limits to it aside from the fact that you can run out of it just like you can your regular chakra. The seal can be used for other things, by the way. There are a handful of different ways that it can be applied, and the first of these is apparently it's tied to Katsuyu somehow. This isn't.
So I'm sorry, but I just something else that came to mind when I started thinking about this is, so these creatures, right? You know, the toads, the snakes, and the sage, or the slugs, excuse me. Like all of these creatures who have apparently been a part of this world, this planet, for a long time. And they eventually take on people, humans, and teach them their techniques and make them a lot stronger. It does kind of make me wonder why they, like, why don't they ever take part in fighting off the Otsutsuki? Because they're coming in and, they're coming in and, you know, trying to basically drain the planet of all of its chakra and its genetic information and put it into the chakra fruit. You would think that they would basically realize that, okay, well, we can't let that happen because that affects us, that maybe we would actually offer our help. But it seems like they're just, it could be that the writers are just forgetting that this is something that could happen. You know, maybe Kodachi just forgot about it, or Kishimoto is just, maybe he just doesn't have any interest. But that's something that always kind of bothered me, like why they don't take part in actively trying to help the humans, you know, fight off the Otsutsuki. I mean, they have to know this is happening, right? They gotta know. So I've always wondered, you know, why it seems like they're okay with just staying in the sidelines. Because if they could help, because they have some pretty powerful techniques. Because, I mean, you saw what happened with Naruto. He went from he went from barely being able to be Kakuzu to training with them for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden he can fight someone like Pain. Now imagine if he trained with them for like months or even a year. I mean, that would, who knows how strong he could get.
Katsuyu somehow. This isn't explained in depth. There's actually only one fucking sentence about it in the whole manga, and that is Katsuyu saying, "I can only use my power in response to the strength of Lady Tsunade's 100 healings." Sakura also gains the ability to summon Katsuyu after her seal manifests, so that's probably relevant, but there isn't anything really said about it, so I can't offer any insight into it. Now, by releasing large quantities of the chakra stored within the seal and pumping it back into the body, a technique known as Yin Seal Release, a person can access the Creation Rebirth Jutsu. This can be done to varying degrees, either by using only some of the chakra stored in the seal, a lot of the chakra stored in the seal, or all of the chakra stored in the seal. But let's talk about what Creation Rebirth does first. It's basically regeneration. It has its limits, of course, but it allows a person to speed up the cellular division that naturally goes on in the body, which in turn speeds up the body's natural healing process. This comes at the cost of, obviously, the chakra used, as well as the shortening of the user's lifespan, but it definitely gets the job done. Tsunade claims that while this jutsu is active, she's pretty much immortal, so I mean, do with that information what you will. As a side note, use of Creation Rebirth causes the seal on the user's forehead to disperse into this pattern of black markings that spread all around the user's face, but as long as they still have any leftover chakra after the jutsu is used, it appears that they're able to use it to remake the seal, as seen when Tsunade did this at the end of the three-way deadlock. Now, there's a beefed-up version of Creation Rebirth called Creation Rebirth Strength of 100 technique that causes these markings to stretch across the user's entire body as opposed to just their face, and it casts the effects of Creation Rebirth on that user's body so they'll automatically heal themselves from any injuries without having to weave any hand signs. And I'd also imagine that having all of the chakra stored within the seal pumped through your body in such a short amount of time also provides some sort of strength increase as well, though that's just conjecture on my part. It also appears to be possible to use the jutsu on other people. Sakura managed to extend the markings from her body to Obito's body temporarily. Now, all this did was give him access to all of the extra chakra that Sakura was drawing from. I don't think it put him in the auto-regen state that she was in. He still seemed pretty winded afterwards. Anyway, I think that covers just about every aspect of the jutsu. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, of course. I'll definitely make sure to leave a comment elaborating on anything that I may have left out. But like I said...
Well, there is one thing he did kind of leave out, which is interesting because he actually showed the panel here, which is a pretty big, is something pretty big to consider when you're using the ability that he just mentioned, mitotic regeneration, which is the fact that, yeah, it has a pretty significant advantage, which is that it heals any damage done to your body. Excuse me. But the problem is that by doing that, you're also shortening your lifespan, because everyone knows that the body can, that in every human being, it can only like cells can only divide for a certain number of times, and when you're speeding up the process, you're basically shortening your own lifespan, because there comes a time in everyone, with every person, where cells just stop dividing. And when that happens, that's when you slowly start to see people, you know, age on the outside, because cells aren't dividing, and the body isn't like, it doesn't look as young as it used to. And that's why this ability, while it is a pretty big advantage in battle, it also provides a pretty big disadvantage, which is that, like I said, it shortens your lifespan. And I think that that's, a lot of people have theorized that that's probably what happened with Hashirama, that he died really young because he, you know, he grew up during a time where people were constantly fighting, and he had that natural born ability where his body would do what Tsunade's body would do whenever she activates mitotic regeneration, which is that it would just heal whatever damage. But because he kept taking so much damage, and the body went through that process of healing and then repairing so often, it severely shortened his lifespan. And it's something that Jiraiya even mentions when he was training Naruto, or during that moment when they were in the hospital, in Kakashi's hospital room, where he said that, you know, Naruto, while he does gain an advantage by going into that Nine-Tails form, you know, he gets the enhanced chakra, the enhanced strength. The problem is that every time he does that, he basically damages his own body, and while the Nine-Tails chakra will repair it, if he keeps doing that, it will severely shorten his lifespan. So this is something that is prevalent throughout the Naruto series, not just in Tsunade. You had characters like, I said, Hashirama, and of course you have Naruto. So, and people have always equated it to the healing factor that you see in the Marvel universe with a character like Wolverine. I think that's the most prominent example where his body will just heal any damage done to it. The thing is that that's a little bit different. You know, it's not the same where it's a mutant ability. It's not the same as his body just it's not a case where his own body's regenerative ability is just sped up. It's different. It's an ability that literally fixes whatever damage, and it's one of the reasons why he's been alive for so long. It's because his body kept healing. Any damage that was done by age was just being healed. And eventually it got to the time of Old Man Logan. I don't know if you guys have read that, but it basically got to a point where even his healing factor is starting to give away to age, and that's why it's not as strong as it used to be, and that's why you're finally seeing him showing signs of aging, why he has the white hair, the wrinkled skin, and all of that. And even though he can still heal, it's just not as good as it used to be back when he was younger. Sorry, I went on a bit of a Marvel tangent, just wanted to talk about that. Anyway, let's go back to where he was. I think it was here.
In the auto regen state that she was in, he still seemed pretty winded afterwards. Anyway, I think that I'll definitely make sure to leave a comment elaborating on anything that I may have left out. But like I said, I'm pretty sure I got everything. Now, before you go, just hold on for a second. Today's video is sponsored by VRV, and if you like watching anime and you want to be able to do it for free, just stick around for a second. So, VRV is a congregate app that hosts a whole bunch of different content platforms.
So this is interesting because this video was made back in 2018. I wonder if VRV is even still there. Because didn't I hear something about it sort of going away? I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments.
My two personal favorites, Crunchyroll and Funimation, all in one app. So for like the three of you who haven't heard of the last two, Crunchyroll and Funimation are these two anime streaming apps. And across the two of them, you can watch pretty much any anime you can think of, either subbed on Crunchyroll or dubbed on Funimation. This includes Hunter x Hunter, Dragon Ball Super, Naruto, Boruto, Death Note, all of the Yu-Gi-Oh series, Attack on Titan, Cowboy Bebop, Mirai Nikki. Like I said, practically any anime you can think of. And if you click the link in the description, you'll get a free, ad-free 30-day trial of VRV Premium, and you'll be able to watch all of these in addition to everything else that VRV has to offer for a whole month, completely free of charge with no ads. The best part about VRV is you can watch everything on it without an internet connection. Like, it's seriously really cool. You find yourself somewhere without cell service, feel like watching some Naruto, you can just pull out your phone and bam, VRV's got you covered. So once again, link in the description, 30 free days. You'll be doing both you and me a favor, I promise. But yeah, that's enough from me. Till my next video, I'll talk to you guys later. Swagkage out. Bye.
Yeah, I think that's the video. So yeah, it's like I said, it's in my opinion it's a really cool technique, and it's also kind of underrated because again, it's understandable when you compare it to a lot of the other abilities we see characters utilizing, especially Naruto and Sasuke. It's understandable why it might not be as well known as some of those other abilities. And I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video that the Boruto series, it seemed like at one point that it was actually going to go into the history of the seal, because if you don't know, light spoiler for Boruto, but there's a line in chapter, I can't remember what it is. It's somewhere in the early 30s of the Boruto manga, like somewhere between chapter 30 to 35, I think, if I remember correctly, somewhere there. There's a chapter where Sarada goes to Sakura and asks her about the Byakugo seal because it's very similar to the Karma seal, being that diamond shape. And she asks her, like, what can you tell me about the Byakugo seal? And she says that, she herself doesn't really know much. And again, it's been a minute since I read that chapter, so I could be wrong on some of the details. But basically what she says is that it goes back to the era of the Sage of the Six Paths. And to me, I always found that interesting. And I even went to the trouble of making a whole video where I theorized about what the connection between, let's say, the Karma mark and the Curse mark, because there's a lot of similarities, and I even threw the Byakugo seal in there about how it could connect to both of those two. Go check out that video. It's I don't do a lot of Boruto theories because those videos don't really perform well. But if that video does better, I do plan on doing more Boruto theory videos, because I do like theorizing about what could possibly happen in a series. But yeah, it did seem like they were going to go into that history, but it seems like that might have been sort of forgotten about because the anime kind of skipped it. It completely cut that scene out. So it seems like, yeah, they kind of decided not to explore that, which to me kind of sucked because that could have been really, really interesting, but yeah, it is what it is. What can you do? But anyway, guys, that's going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to ring the bell for notifications and check the description for all the links, whether it's to this video, Swag's channel, my second channel. Go check them out, and I hope I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.